Good job, guys. That was excellent. I hope that you laughed at me as much as I laughed at me. But now that that's out of the way, of course, grab your water, make sure you hydrate. Excellent job. We're going to begin our panel. Up first, we have some incredible women in sport, in different sports, in fact. So our remarkable women in sport panel is going to go onto the top of the screen. And we have on this panel Amanda Kessel, U.S. Women's Hockey Olympic gold medalist and official Junior Rangers girls hockey ambassador. Amanda's joining us. We have Danelle Morgan, who is a Radio City Rockette for 15 years. Talk about consistency, guys. Danelle has also served as a dance captain and an assistant choreographer for the Christmas Spectacular, starring the Radio City Rockettes. Danelle, thanks for joining us.
Hi, guys.
And we've got Diane Ditran, who is a professional Counter-Strike Global Offensive CSGO player. Since she started competing in 2013, she is a 14-time world champion and has competed internationally in over 8+ countries. Diane, thanks for joining us. Uh-oh, Diane, are you on mute? You know it's 2021, girl.
Hello? Sorry. Thanks
Hey,
for having
Diane.
me. I'm already starting us bad. I'm sorry.
Hi, Amanda. Hi, Danelle. Hi, Diane. Ladies, thanks so much for joining me.
So happy to be here.
It's good to see you again, Danelle, by the way. All right, girls. We're going to start with your path. We want to know how each of you found your way into your sport and some of the obstacles that you faced along the way. And let's go, Diane, Amanda, and Danelle. So Diane, start us off, please.
My brothers got me into video games at a really young age. So I basically became really competitive in them. And ever since I was around like the age of like 14, I was just constantly playing.
All right, Amanda.
Yeah, so I grew up, I had 2 older brothers and pretty much was thrown into every sport. I loved playing all the sports. I played hockey, tennis, golf, baseball, soccer. But I always loved playing hockey the most. I would miss any other practice in order to make hockey. At one point, my mom tried getting me to quit hockey and wanted me to play something in warm weather. So she wanted me to move to Florida and play tennis or golf, but I could never do it. Hockey just had my heart.
Danelle, did your older brothers dance?
I mean, around the house, he would never admit to anything else, I'm sure. But yeah, I started dancing when I was 4 years old, and similar to Amanda, I grew up playing soccer, I played softball, I played pretty much every sport. My parents threw me in everything, but gradually as I got older, everything else sort of faded away, and dance was a thing that stuck around for me, and I'm glad it stuck around because it worked out.
Definitely. It seems like it has worked out really well. Diane, I'm going to go to the second part of that question and I'll open it up to all 3 of you. Of course, what are some adversities or some challenges that you have faced? From what I understand, Diane, is gaming is still a world working on its diversity, whether it's gender or race. So what have you experienced?
Yeah, definitely being a female in a male dominated scene is really, really tough. I mean, you get those people who are always going to talk some smack to you for sure. You run into that a lot. And for me, I've always just had a really thick skin coming from it. So it's made me kind of grow as a human, just kind of ignoring everything that, whatever people say, like success is always the best revenge. So just being at the top of the game is just how you're going to get it.
It's like Beyonce says, y'all, best revenge is your paper. Amanda, what has been your experience?
Yeah, growing up, there weren't that many opportunities for girls to play hockey in my area. So I grew up playing with boys and on all boys teams. And while my boy teammates were always super nice to me, playing other teams, the boys weren't. I know my mom, I would wear my ponytail up at the top of my helmet so that no hair would really be showing off the back of my helmet. So my mom was always scared that the boys were gonna get me. But I know there was plenty of fights in the stands. Like parents would be like swearing at me, not saying nice stuff. But I think no matter where you're at, there's always gonna be people trying to knock you down. And it doesn't matter if you're at the top, middle, whatever. And kind of like Diane said, you can't listen to it. You gotta go on and surround yourself with those people that are gonna push you forward.
Danelle, I know that you're not necessarily competing with guys, but one, dancing is absolutely competitive. Two, it absolutely requires athleticism, especially for you to have been doing it so successfully for over a decade. What can you share about overcoming challenges?
Like you were saying, dance tends to be a female-dominated sport. So, for instance, to audition for the Rockettes, there are over 500 women who audition every year for the show. So to be one who gets that job is super competitive. And I think one thing that I found I did with myself is I tended to compare myself to this dancer or that dancer. And it wasn't until I took the moment to worry about yourself, Danelle. What can you improve within yourself? How can you challenge yourself to grow? And once I realized that I was my strongest competition, I think that's when I really started to grow as a dancer and a performer, because it wasn't just about being better than X, Y, or Z. Can I be better than myself? Can I push myself to grow in that way?
Such an important lesson for all of us to compete against ourselves and be the best version of ourselves as possible. Now, Amanda, of our illustrious panel, you are the gold medalist. So please tell us what it was like to win a gold medal.
I mean, it was unbelievable. It's, you know, the highlight of my career, of my life at this point. I grew up, and ever since I can remember being a little girl, my goal was to make the Olympics and win a gold medal. And I was in the 2014 Olympics and we fell short and we won a silver medal. And ever since that day that we lost, all I could think about was getting back there and having another chance to win. So really, it's just amazing. But the best part about it was celebrating with my teammates.
What were the emotions that went through your head? Because I know sometimes wanting to get a second chance and knowing how difficult it is can become a negative or a distraction. So how did you navigate having had this experience once and come up a little short of the goal to making it happen the second time around?
Yeah, we had a great mix of veterans and rookies on our team. So there was, you know, some three-time Olympians and some people that it was their first time being in the Olympics. And I think for us, you know, kind of having that young, fresh experience, that they had nothing to lose. And for us, we knew that every little detail and every day, it all matters and adds up. So the entire year, we all trained together down in Florida before we went to the Olympics. And it was, you know, every day matters. Every little thing that you're doing in the end, that's what created it. And I think the thing that made us propel through everything was probably just our team unity and leaning on one another. We knew that, you know, if it wasn't your day, it was going to be somebody else on your teams.
That's an excellent advantage in team sports. Now, Danelle, for you, the Rockettes are your team in many ways, but like you mentioned, as a dancer, you had to compete against yourself every day. What would be the advice that you would give to young women listening, no matter what sport they may choose?
I think the biggest thing that we can do as young women is to continue to put ourselves out there. You know, for me, when I was, you know, auditioning all the time, something that I would often try to do was find ways to not go to the audition. So I would essentially cut myself before this director or that director cut me. So I would take opportunity away from myself. So I think the idea of putting yourself out there and not being afraid to fail. Because you know what, as long as you learn something from that failure, that's growth. And that's one step further for you. So I think something that we need to do as women and young women coming up is continue to put ourselves out there and don't be afraid of that failure, because it helps you grow. You can steer that failure in the right direction.
I'm sure all of you guys, I know myself as an athlete, I felt strongly that I learned the most when we lost or failed, whatever the task was. That's when I grew the most and could see exactly what I needed to change or be better in, as opposed to when we won and all we got to do was celebrate.
Yep.
Diane, now, interestingly enough, research has actually shown here recently that online gaming can help to strengthen pre-existing relationships and build new friendships. How has being a part of the CLG team helped you build a sense of community?
I think my favorite thing about CLG is actually that it's kind of like a family. So everybody there is kind of, you know, just, we're so warmed up to each other. It just feels like I feel like I have multiple moms, dads, aunts, uncles, and like all of CLG, and it's awesome. So, and it's just like my team too. Like I feel like I have more sisters than I already do. So it's just kind of like it's a big, small community that kind of just grew up together. So for me, I think that's one of the bigger things.
Love that. Love that. Now, this one actually goes to Amanda and Diane. both of you are still in spaces that are male dominated, but Amanda, when you look at the growth of the game, especially for opportunities for women, what is encouraging and what work still needs to continue? Mute.
Sorry about that. It's incredible how far we've come in the last few years, decade. Growing up, I didn't really have girls teams to play on. Now there's girls teams to play on. And then professional women's hockey, that wasn't really a thing. And now we're starting to break through that barrier. It's every day we're kind of pushing the envelope. I have teammates now that are broadcasters on TV. There's women that I've played with that are now scouting in the NHL. So all these women are really starting to, break into the men's side and the more dominated side of hockey. And so there's positions every single day that are opening up, but it's something that, we're still fighting for. There's a long way to go, but I think that we're headed in the right direction.
That's encouraging. Diane, what about you in terms of opportunities for women in gaming?
Growing up for me, there weren't that many female tournaments, like all female tournaments. And I think that's what kind of was very hard for me to grow up with, because it was mostly just all male dominated, games. And for me, like seeing so many more female tournaments pop up as the years go by, it's really refreshing because it just brings in more females to come and try to play the game. So it's awesome to see all these new opportunities like just pop up because they're trying to make it more diverse, which is awesome. And I think it just kind of helps promote like when I was a younger girl and I saw all these like females trying to play in these female tournaments, I was just like, oh, there's only one or two. Now there's multiple per year, and it's awesome to see.
Love that. Danelle, in your space, performing at a high level in the world of dance, I'm curious about what has been your biggest motivation and how dance in particular can help young women with body positive images.
I think my motivation above all is to be able to perform. And I know that it's, as a dancer, the field is so hard to break into. And so every moment and every chance that I get to do this thing that I love so much is just the ultimate motivation, and we perform, we have 6,000 women or 6,000 people in the audience. And to be able to see the little girls that were me once upon a time in the audience is such an amazing opportunity to really get a chance to know that what I do is something special and it's enjoyed and it's shared with the audience.
What about the body positivity part? Because I know sometimes dance, there used to be this stereotype of what a dancer had to be, but now we're seeing even that being broken.
Yep. And I think it's really important because as dancers, we're known as like, oh, you just perform on stage, you do your little diddly-dee thing, but we are athletes. In season, we'll do up to 17 shows in a week, and you can't be malnourished and unhealthy, which dancers have been known to be once upon a time. You can't make it through that. So we are eating to power our bodies. We say we're like Olympians with rhinestones is what we call ourselves sometimes because, we are training. We're doing so much cross training. We're going to the gym, we're lifting, we're doing HIIT training like you guys are doing. We're also taking our dance classes. So you have to be strong and you have to be powerful in order to make it as a dancer these days. And I think like to be weak is to your detriment, so we're getting those calories in and pushing ourselves to be strong and make it through those 4 shows that we'll do in a day.
Strong is both beautiful and graceful, and that is what all of us have to be in our respective fields. Now, Diane, it's interestingly enough, this question was actually geared towards you, but I think we can expand it out to each of the industries represented here. But what can be done to promote more women and create a better reception for women in the gaming industry?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the tournaments, like I said, I think the more that we make, the more it is for females to feel more empowered into going to these tournaments. I've had the opportunity and all the luck in the world to be able to go across countries, to go to Poland, Sweden, Copenhagen, just everywhere around, just because of these female tournaments. And I think it's awesome. It's such a great experience. So for me, if we just continue to keep doing it, it's, yeah.
Love that. I love that. Now, piggybacking on that question, our final question that we'll get an answer from each of you, we'll go to Amanda first. there's still so much progress to be made in terms of women in sports, period. And I love the factoid, actually, honestly, it's a fact that women who play sports go on to become leaders, and all of you all are leaders in your respective sports. What can we do on a grassroots level, whether it's hockey, whether it's dancing, whether it's gaming, any sport? What can we do to help share the message to young girls that may be hesitant to get involved with their sport or a sport?
Yeah, I think kind of like Danelle was saying earlier, you got to get out there and try it. If you don't start, it's never going to happen. And I think what's really cool is and incredible is, you know, we're all from such different backgrounds, and you know, there's a way and a space for everyone. So maybe you try a sport and it doesn't work for you, but there's going to be another sport that you eventually love or something that sticks. So you got to keep trying and keep getting out there.
Love that. Danelle.
Exactly what Amanda said. It's exposure. We have to put ourselves out there, and us as leaders in our fields, in our industries, we have to continue to put ourselves out there and continue to tell our stories so that that little girl over there knows that they can become a Rockette or a professional gamer or a hockey player. You know, we have to put ourselves out there on both ends, and it's up to the parents also to expose your children to all of these things so that they can maybe just have that little light bulb go off that makes it an option when maybe before it wasn't necessarily an option.
I love that. Exposure and opportunities are key. We've got a great question from one of our audience members. Erica A asks, to all of the panelists, what positive thinking or activities do you recommend for children, teens, and women? Are there any books that you all can recommend? But I'll go with the first part of that, because I know we all have our rituals in terms of affirmations and how we encourage ourselves. Talk to me about positive thinking as you prepare for a gaming tournament, Di.
Yeah, I actually try to do a lot of meditation just to try to clear my head for the majority of the day, just to kind of start things off really great. But for the most part, I think of things that I can also do as a player that you don't need talent for, which is being on time, you know, putting in the hours, and just kind of small stuff like that that you don't need the talent for, and being able to kind of just put it into your everyday use.
That's such a great point. Hard work and good habits help separate even the talent from the folks that are just willing to work hard. What about you, Amanda?
I think it's to control the controllables. There's so many things that, you know, you can't control in sports, but there are certain things that you can. And one of my favorite quotes is, 2 things that you can control is your attitude and effort. So no matter what, like Diane said, it might not be your day in one area, but you know, keep working hard and something's going to pull through, and have a great attitude.
And Danelle.
Yeah, I think a big thing for me is I do a lot of visualization. You know, with our choreography, for instance, it's not just what we're doing on our bodies, which is meticulous, it's also where we are in space. So I often visualize my track in the show, is what we call it. So using these tools, it's a discipline is what it is. We teach ourselves what's in our head is going to come out in our bodies. And another thing is, I would say, to make your practice or your rehearsal your performance. Because if you practice or rehearse at that level of performance, what are you going to be then when you finally get to that performance or that game? So just expect the most of yourself.
That's such a great nugget to know. Practice harder, or at least as hard as you play. Okay, guys, you guys have been tremendous. We've got lots of action in our chat conversation. Question specifically for you, Amanda, what other sports did you play that you felt helped out your hockey skills?
That's a great one. The 2 that I would probably say that helped me the most were soccer and baseball. Soccer, I think, just kind of that aspect of having to see players and special recognition. And I feel like I was more athletic when I was still playing soccer and other sports. And you tend to see that now that kids are specializing so early in one sport. And I think you lose some athleticism. And then baseball, just the hand-eye that carried over really well.
Awesome. Let's see. I think I've got one specifically for each of you. Danelle, someone writes, what do I need to do to become a professional dancer? I'm 12 years old and have been dancing for 9 years.
Well, you're well on your way. I think a big thing is do the work. You know, those ballet classes that you don't necessarily want to go to every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you got to go to those classes. So even when you're feeling tired or you just don't want to do the work, it's always better in the end. At the end of that ballet class, you're always like, you know what, that was worth it. You know, so I would say just keep that discipline and then keep your eye on that end goal. Just don't ever lose sight of that end goal, and then do all the things you need to do to get there.
And last one for you, Di. What do you use to stay motivated while you train? I'm curious, how do you train, Di?
I guess I could kind of explain it. It's kind of like a warm-up that we do to kind of keep our hand-eye coordination kind of up to par before we play. So it's just kind of like a warm-up to make sure that it's kind of like muscle memory, basically. The more you do it, the more it'll like pretty much get you ready as soon as it like starts off with the game. So it's kind of like that.
Fantastic. Well, that we learned something new there, because I thought you were just going to say play lots of video games all the time. I didn't know that there was a technique.
I want to know this technique. I'm interested.
Exactly. We all need to practice.
Tell me, yeah.
Danelle, Amanda, Diane, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Congratulations on all of your success, being women that have used sport to empower your lives, create these lives that you are very proud of. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today.